Hi, everybody. Welcome to today's edition of the CrossFit Games Update Show. I'm Sean Woodland with Tommy Marquez and Pat Sherwood. We continue our previews for the Masters divisions for the 2016 Reebok CrossFit Games. Today, we deal with the men's side for the 40 to 49-year-olds, and these two divisions, 40 to 44 and 45 to 49, are putting up numbers that were considered great for games athletes just a couple years ago.
These are the guys you got to watch, right? You run an affiliate, one of these old guys wanders in and just smokes some 26-year-old kid. It's like, what just happened? The numbers, the times, the loadings that these guys have, 100% legit.
A handful of years ago, we had athletes still qualifying for the CrossFit Games that are now in this age division. And even up until this year, we still have Masters athletes qualifying for regionals as well, despite the higher and elevated standards that we put out.
Let's start with the 45 to 49-year-old division. And the man who finished second at the games last year in this division is second after the Masters online qualifier. That's Bill Grundler, second place, 68 points. He's 43 points back of Steve Johnson, but it's close. Spots 2 through 6 separated by just 32 points. So Grundler, not the favorite here. Steve Johnson, very impressive with what he did in the online qualifier.
Yeah, he was third in the open behind both of the Grundler brothers. But then you know what? He showed up big in the Masters qualifier, and consistency is what wins out, especially at the games when you have more events, a higher volume, higher loading. Being able to consistently perform at the top is what's going to win you. And he was the only athlete in the Masters qualifier to finish all of the events inside the top 10. He had a massive 517-pound deadlift, and then he won the thruster row couplet. So a nice performance across the board. And now it's not so sure that one of the Grundlers is going to walk away with it.
Well, even though Bill might not be the favorite, don't be shocked if he winds up on top of the podium. We all know what he's capable of.
He's extremely capable, mentally tough, former wrestler. He will double leg take you down back in the warm-up area if you get a little sassy with him. Second fittest man in the world in this age division last year behind Matt Swift, who is not competing this year, so it kind of opens it up. And Swift and Grundler were just kind of well ahead of their peers last year, so I think once the stage is big, Bill will do that again. He had 2 event wins last year on the double hanger and the long chipper, 2 very different events, shows he's very well-rounded. And in the Masters online qualifier, how crazy is this? His worst finish, a 47th on the deadlift, but he still pulled 455 pounds, but those guys are just so strong.
Spots 2 through 6, I mentioned this, how close they are. Who are some men in that group there that have a chance to get onto the podium?
Well, you look at the other guy who was on the podium last year in this division, and Ron Matthews. He was third in 2015. And then another person, James Grundler, Bill's younger brother, who was in the 40 to 44 division last year. He took last place at the games, but remember, he's still young compared to his peers. He's the youngest guy in the division this year. He's still new to CrossFit. He's only a couple years in, and he's 5th place after the Masters qualifier, and I really think he's just scratching the surface of his potential, so I'm excited to see what that looks like when he's in a different division this year with a little more head of steam coming into the games.
Finally, let's move on to the 40 to 44-year-old division, and that's where Sean Ramirez is trying to pull off a three-peat, but he is not in the top 10 after the Masters online qualifier. Jeffrey Prejean is the leader with 77 points, just 19 points separating him from 4th place Sean Malloy, and then Sean Ramirez down there in 14th place. So even though Ramirez is not on top coming into the games, he was hurt during the Open, and we know what he's done in the past. He's still very much the man to beat.
Oh, without a doubt. I'm not worried about Sean Ramirez one bit. He didn't just win 2 straight CrossFit Games, but he won 6 straight competitions affiliated with the CrossFit Games season. That means he won the Open, Masters Qualifier, and Games 2 years running. Nobody could touch him. This year, Sean, you mentioned he was injured, and that is key because it wasn't a small injury. A broken ankle playing soccer with his kids kind of put his season in doubt for a little bit, but you know what? He made it through the season thus far, and I think in the 16.3 announcement, he showed what he's really about. He is a gamer. When the lights were on, when everybody was watching, and he had a young stud in Nick Palladino staring him down, coming out hot, you know what? He stood tall and kind of showed the young guy that I'm still the man to beat and kind of gave him a whooping.
And we absolutely have to give Jeffrey Prejean his due. I mean, he first place coming in after the Masters online qualifier, and he looks like he could definitely give Ramirez a run for his money.
I think he'll have something to say to Ramirez. Yeah, 3rd place at the games last year, 12th in the Open, but even though he took 3rd last year, he was only 8 points behind 2nd place. Very consistent athlete. He had nothing outside of the top 10 in 4 of those finishes. He took 2nd place, so he really can do it all. 1st place in the Masters qualifier, like you said, and He's got a 225-pound snatch, but he's not just a barbell guy. He can do the filthy 50s in 19 minutes and 38 seconds. And I know you'll be a fan. He's in the Clydesdale division.
Yes.
6'2", 200 pounds, just making it happen.
Yeah, I've got to put a couple pounds on him.
Put a couple,
yeah,
fatten him up a little bit.
I'll allow it. Yeah,
Right.
you got a 2 in the front of your weight. You're good by me. Who are some men outside the top 6, maybe even outside the top 10, who you wouldn't be surprised if, day 3, all of a sudden they're in contention for a spot on the podium?
An old boy that's been around for a while, Rob Orlando.
Yeah.
20th in the Masters qualifier, just snuck in, but I think he's going to excel on the big stage out there in Carson. He's, one of the CrossFit strongmen. We're talking about a 610-pound deadlift, a 510-pound back squat, but not just that, he can do Fran in 2 minutes and 17 seconds. He's competed at the games in 09, 10, and 11 as an individual, and now entering the Masters competition.
I am stoked to see Robbo
Yeah.
back at the games in this Masters division. You know what? He was 68th in the Open, kind of put his season in question, but came back in the Masters qualifier for a couple years there when he was qualifying for the games. He was in the conversation as a contender to maybe take home the title, and he didn't do that, but he still has some impressive numbers, and his track record has shown he's got the skills, he's got the strength, and he could make a splash.
The Masters competition gets going July 19th. That's the Tuesday, the week of the CrossFit Games down there in Carson, California. Tickets are still available. Head to games.crossfit.com for more information on that. We will be back tomorrow with you to take a look at the women's side of the house for the 40 to 49-year-old athletes.